Well, again, it's your brother man, Demetrius Knuckles here. I'm in New York right now because this is the layover in my journey to Ghana, Africa. And so I'm sitting here in the hotel room and I'm just in my mind, I'm wrapping my mind around the idea that just 5 years ago, I was sitting in a prison cell. I was sitting in a prison cell just 5 years ago, dreaming about one day getting out of prison. Because as you all know my story, a little bit of it at least, you know that I had life without parole in prison. I had life without parole in prison. I served 28 years in prison. So now here I was, I'm dreaming. I mean, all my life I dreamed of going to Africa because I can remember as a child watching the movie Roots as a child in 1981. I remember in elementary school, the school showed the movie Roots, and something in me was set on fire. Something in me was set on fire. I wanted to go to Africa. I wanted to I wanted to be a part of the uplifting of my people. I wanted to do something that told the story of my inner life, of my natural life, that my outer life didn't tell. My outer life told the story of crime, told the story of drug selling, told the story of street criminality. My outer life told a whole different story than what my inner life told. And so I always wanted to go to Africa because, and not just because it was some cliche that black people or so-called black people should return to their motherland, not because of that. I always wanted to go to Africa because I knew that the energy over here where I lived at in America did not seem of the natural energy that I was born with. And so I wanted to feel and tap into that natural energy that I was born with. But I never knew how to get to it. I seen glimpses and felt glimpses of it, taste glimpses, heard glimpses, smelled glimpses of it, seen a little bit of glimpses of it. But I could not put my hands or put my arms around what it meant to be in Africa. I wanted to be there. So right now, I'm in New York City, the great state, the empire state of mind. That's where I'm at right now. I'm embracing every moment because I can remember. And I'm further embracing every moment because, and I send all my prayers out to all of those brothers and sisters that's going through something right now. They going through something, they hurting, they in pain, they need somebody to talk to, somebody to lean on. They need somebody just to help them through their trials and tribulations. So I'm sending special prayers out to all of my brothers and sisters who are going through something. I'm sending special prayers out to those brothers and sisters who lost a family member this morning. That family member didn't wake up for whatever reason. That family member didn't make it out the hospital for whatever reason. That family member may have not even made it to the hospital for whatever reason. So I'm sending out prayers to all of them because I know in my thinking of others and my empathy and sympathy for others and society and humanity as a whole, that tells me and that instructs me to the understanding of my appreciation for life. Because it was just 5 years ago that I was in prison serving a life sentence, life without parole. It was just 5 years ago that all I could do was dream of one day going to Africa. It was just 5 years ago that I would sit in my cell and I would talk amongst my brothers in that cell block about the things that I wanted to do when I get out. How I wanted to uplift fallen humanity. How I wanted to take my place in the affairs of man. How I wanted to do whatever I could to curb or curtail this rise in crime amongst my young brothers and sisters. It was just 5 years ago that I was telling guys in prison that when I get out, I was going to Africa. And when I get out, I was going to Africa. I wanted to experience the soil. I wanted to experience the soil that my ancestors toiled, that they walked on, that they lived on, that they experienced in their lives. I wanted to experience that, the soil. And so I used to talk about going to Africa. I used to talk about it. And I didn't really understand the importance of speaking things into existence. I didn't understand it that way. I understood what it meant to, if you say you're going to do something, just walk in that direction and with faith, and that it could be done. Because we know that faith without works is dead. So I knew that much. And so now, 5 years ago, I was still dreaming about going to Africa. I was talking about going to Africa with my brothers in prison. And when I got out of prison, I've been to Puerto Rico. I've been to so many different places. And it's been a blessing. My eyes have been opened. My heart has been opened. But going to Africa is a totally different story. Puerto Rico, I love it. I plan on going back there many more times. But Puerto Rico is not Africa. Atlanta is not Africa. Miami is not Africa. California is not Africa. Philadelphia is not Africa. There is only one Africa. There is only one Africa. Just as we only have one mother that gave birth to us, there's only one Africa that gave birth to humanity. And I wanted to experience the going back. The going back. And I use that term, the going back to Africa, because that's where I originated from. So I wanted to go back because I understand that heaven lies at the foot of a woman, and Africa is the motherland. So heaven lies at her feet. That's how you get back to where you're supposed to be. Is when you bow at the foot of that woman. The woman that I'm speaking about is Africa. So again, just 5 years ago, just five short years ago, I was in prison. I was serving life without parole. I was serving life without parole in prison. I was sentenced to die in prison in Michigan. That was just 5 years ago. But although the court system sentenced me to die in prison, I knew that death was not going to be my route out of prison. I knew that. I knew that because I was tapping into spirits that were beyond the comprehension of anything that the prison system could inflict upon me. I was tapping into spirits that existed on the earth before the earth had been fully formed with the vegetations and nutritions that we eat today. I was tapping into some brothers and sisters' spirits that I didn't even know. But the one thing that I did know is that I wanted to go to Africa. That was the dream, to go to Africa. And I say this on behalf of all the brothers and sisters who have made it out of that prison setting. I say this on behalf of all of my brothers and sisters who have made it off of that prison plantation. The work that we do out here right now is not for us. It's for the benefit of those whom we left behind and the communities at large who are missing their fathers, their mothers, their brothers, sisters. Because it was just 5 short years ago that I was just dreaming of going to Africa. And I was just talking about going to Africa 5 short years ago. And I guess I could say, ain't it strong what faith can do? It's not a miracle. It's not a miracle. It's nature. Nature is doing what it's supposed to do for me. Because when I was in prison just 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, rather, when I was in prison and I was dreaming about going to Africa, it wasn't just a dream for me. That's what I understand now. It wasn't just a dream for me. I changed my life. I changed how I thought. I realized that the thought is the cause of it all. So I started changing the way I think. And when I started changing the way I think, I started changing the way I live. And when I started changing the way I live, I began to treat others the way that I wanted to be treated. And that made so much difference. I had forgiven others. Even though others had not forgiven me, I had forgiven others. Because I understood that when you don't forgive, you carry a burden on your shoulders that's so heavy, that holds you down, holds you back, holds you in a place far away from who you really are. Because I can remember just 5 short years ago, I was in prison. I was serving a life without parole sentence with only dreams of being released from prison, with only dreams of one day enjoying life on the outside of prison, with only dreams of returning to the soil of my ancestors. But I knew that it all began with the thought, so I had to change the way I was thinking about life. And I did. I changed the way that I was thinking about life. Life began to mean so much more to me when I began to forgive myself and forgive others. Life began to mean so much more to me when I opened my eyes and I seen that man and that woman on the street look just like me. Life began to mean so much to me when I realized that life will pass me by if I didn't appreciate it. I began to realize so many things growing up in prison with life without parole, serving a sentence of life without parole, sentenced to die in prison. But yet, something mighty was happening. Something mighty was already in the workings, and I didn't have anything to do with it. Something mighty was happening, and I didn't have nothing to do with it. Something mighty was happening. And here I was, being used as a vessel. Here I was being used as a vessel to deliver information to a people that were desperately in need of this information. The information was the hope. The information was love. The information was joy. I was commissioned to deliver this information to my people, because when hope and joy is back of toil, then all of life is filled with joy and hope. If you could just give people hope, I'm telling you firsthand experience. If you could just help restore hope in people, you will see a difference in those people. If you could just restore hope, give them just the mustard seed of hope, and you will see a difference in those people. Because it was just 5 years ago that I was serving life without parole in prison. I was serving life without parole in prison just 5 years ago. I was sentenced to die in prison. I was sentenced to die in prison. Do you all understand what I'm saying? I was sentenced to die in prison. I wasn't sentenced to walk out of prison. I was sentenced to die in prison. But something mighty was in the working. Something mighty was in the working. Something so mighty that even the most powerful of man-made laws could not restrain what was about to happen. The mightiest of man-made laws couldn't even comprehend what was about to happen, because I was being protected and commissioned by a force beyond the comprehension of man. I truly believe it. I know it, because I talk to that spirit. I talk to that energy, and that energy talk back. In a still small voice, he speaks. And signs and symbols is for the conscious mind. So if you ain't conscious, you're not going to understand what I'm saying. But if you have just a modicum of consciousness, you hear me, you know what I'm talking about. Say, my lawyer, huh? The doctor's hands were on me. The doctor healed my heart. The psychologist healed my mind. Preparing me for my mission. I was being prepared for a mission, y'all. What's the mission? The uplifting of fallen humanity. I was sent and commissioned. I was given a baton, a torch. That torch and that baton was symbolic to hope. And I was told to run with this torch and this baton. Run with this torch and this baton until it was time for me to pass it to someone else. But until then, I am to continue to run with this torch and this baton because it represents hope. And everywhere I run with this torch and this baton, I am lighting people's lives up with hope. I am inspiring people with hope and joy and love. I'm inspiring people with just a modicum of what peace looks like, of what forgiveness looks like, of what redemption looks like. Because I can remember it was just 5 short years ago that I was serving life without parole in prison. I was sentenced to die. But again, it was something mighty happening. It was something mighty happening, and the mind of man could not comprehend it. Mortal minds could not comprehend things immortal. Impossible. Scott, you asked, what was it? It was me, brother. It was me. See, because if man will find his devil, he must look within. His name is self. See, the devil outside of you is someone else, but the devil inside of you is the devil that you must fight every single day. That's the first devil that you must deal with. It's self. So if the devil lives within you, and we're just talking about those thoughts, we're just talking about the thoughts that we create in our mind that causes us to go astray or do something negative. So if those thoughts exist in you, then there must be good thoughts existing in you as well. And those good thoughts, those great thoughts, those humble thoughts, we refer to in that humble energy, we refer to as the opposite of the devil, because God lives within us too. We just got to recognize it. So things were happening. Things were happening. And I'm not going to hold y'all up too much longer. You know, I'm in New York right now. I have to attend to some business in New York before I end up in Africa. Later on today, I'll be traveling to Africa. So again, it was just 5 years ago that I was serving life without parole in prison, only talking about going to Africa, dreaming about going to Africa, longing to go to Africa. It was just 5 years ago. And on behalf of all of my brothers and sisters who are still on those prison plantations, trying to figure out the way out, trying to find someone that could give them just a little bit of hope. To all of those brothers and sisters, I stand with them. I stand for them. And I allowed them to stand on my shoulders so they could see some of the uh, great things in life that I see, some of the great places in life that I've been. I allowed them to stand on my shoulders because my ancestors were built with strong shoulders to allow people like me to stand on them. And they have fortified me with the information and the wherewithal to inspire others to stand on my shoulder so they can see that freedom, so they can see that promised land that they so deserve for themselves. I stand on the shoulders of some giants. I stand on some shoulders of some ancestors who did mighty things. I stand on the shoulders of some ancestors who overcame unimaginable challenges. I stand on the shoulders of ancestors who believed and had faith in one another so much that they built civilizations because they wanted to see one another excel in life. I stand on the shoulders of brothers and sisters who died just to see someone prevail. I stand on the shoulders of brothers and sisters who died just to make conditions better. I stand on the shoulders of brothers and sisters who knew that the prison plantations were going to be a popular thing, a monetary gain for the slaveholders. And so all they wanted, our brothers and sisters, the ancestors, all they wanted was for us to hold on to the memory because the hope, the love, the joy, and the faith lived in the memory of them. And so I stood on their shoulders and I stand on their shoulders. And I don't look back because my ancestors are right in front of me. They're right in front of me. They don't want me to look back. Because, like in the Bible, when God told the lady, if you do run and don't look back, if you look back, you're gonna turn into a pillar of salt. Because he was telling her that the future is in front of you. I've given you everything that it takes to get you to where you got to go. But you can't look back. And that's what my ancestors have told us. They have given us all of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that it takes to succeed in life, that it takes to uplift fallen humanity. They have given us all of this, but we cannot look back. They didn't say don't reach back. They didn't say don't reach back. We reach back and we pull our brothers and sisters up with us. They said don't look back. I'm reaching back for my brothers and sisters. Come on. Come on. Come on. But I'm not looking back. Nothing exists behind me except the past. Nothing exists behind me except the past. But guess what, y'all? What exists in front of me is the future. I got to leave you all now. Peace and love to those within the sound of my voice. And for those who cannot hear the sound of my voice, I say pass along the message because someone needs to be inspired. Live from New York.